Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's video we're talking about BMW, and we're going to try to explain why BMW has all of a sudden become so successful as a luxury car automaker, especially when you compare their numbers to other big brands like Mercedes and Audi. Before we get into this video though, a huge shout out and thank you to the BMW of Pleasant Grove, Utah for hosting me for this video. I'll include a link to their inventory in the description down below, so if you happen to be shopping for a BMW, which a lot of people are now shopping for BMWs, definitely check them out. They do not charge any sort of markups over MSRP whatsoever, and well, if you have any questions, just ask for Brendan. Let's get into the content. I want to go over BMW sales figures to really set the stage for what we're going to talk about in today's video. So BMW has had a pretty interesting decade, just like most luxury car makers, because, well, before this last decade, we obviously had the great financial crisis, which obliterated luxury car makers. I mean, in 2009, for example, BMW sold less than 200,000 cars in the United States, which was a decline of over 20% year over year. However, they definitely rebounded a massive amount after the great financial crisis to get to the point where, as of in 2015, they sold almost 350,000 cars, which, I mean, you compare that to 2009, I mean, that is literally over 150,000 more units from just 6 years prior. Now, fast forward just a couple more years, and BMW started to kind of soften, not only with the amount of cars they sold, but also with their market share. Their market share peaked out in 2014 at just over 2% of the US market, and right before the pandemic hit in 2019, BMW was selling closer to 300,000 cars, and their market share had dropped below 2%. However, obviously we all know that the pandemic hit, and this completely changed things for BMW, because in 2021, BMW again sold over 300,000 cars. In 2022, they sold over 300,000 cars, and not only did they sell over 300,000 cars, but they had their market share jump to over 2%. I mean, 2021, for example, 2.25%, and in 2022, their market share jumped up to over 2.43%. So not only is BMW selling more cars than they have in a long time historically, they also have more market share than they have in a long time. And just to really hit home with the fact that BMW is doing really well, let's go over the market share of Mercedes. Over the last decade, Mercedes had a market share of over 2% pretty consistently, and currently Mercedes has a market share of about 2.5%, which is pretty much equal to BMW's 2.4-ish% market share. And then if we go over to Audi, their market share pretty much hovered right around 1% for most of the last decade. Right now it's 1.3%. So not only is BMW now as big as Mercedes in the US, they're like twice as big as Audi from a market share perspective in the US. And something else to note is over the last year or so, BMW has had their sales figures increase by over 20%, whereas Mercedes has had their sales figure only increase by about 4%. And then if we jump over to Audi, they've actually had their sales figures decrease by 8% over the last year. So Audi is losing sales, Mercedes is barely gaining sales, and then BMW is skyrocketing in sales. Now, market share and overall volume of cars sold is very important for a car company, but what's more important is going to be overall profitability. And BMW has seen record profits over the last couple of years. Over the last decade, BMW saw a gross profits number of about 20 billion. Over the last 2 years, it's been about 25, 26 billion. And so BMW is not only selling more cars and gaining more market share, but they're making more money while they're doing it. So they're like checking every single box. Now, I think the first way to explain why BMW is so successful is to, well, show some of the cars that they currently have. I'm going to show the cars that I think are leading to the most success for BMW. Now, I want to start off with the X5. I feel like the X5 has helped BMW become extremely successful here in the US because, well, it's the perfect size for a luxury SUV. It's big enough that you can store a lot of stuff in it, but it's still small enough that you can have fun, sporty driving characteristics with it. And I feel like the X5 M50i and the X5M perfectly show that because they're super practical family cars, but then they're also really fun performance cars, and then they're also luxury cars. And so the X5, I feel like, is a really big reason as to why BMW is successful, is because, well, you can get it at a more affordable rate if you don't want to add all of the options and the crazy powertrains, but then you can also add a bunch of crazy stuff to it and make it an absolute performance beast. And so there really is an X5 for everyone. Now, another car that I feel like has helped BMW become very successful is going to be the 3 Series, right? This is another like bread and butter piece for BMW. And the new 3 Series, I think, is absolutely phenomenal when you compare it to the competition. This compares against like the Mercedes C-Class and the Audi A4, and well, the A4 just feels like a souped up Jetta, so it doesn't feel like special, and the Mercedes C-Class has basically become a baby S-Class, which is great if you want a luxury car, but the 3 Series not only gives you like luxury car ride quality and a luxury car interior, but it also gives you fun, sporty driving dynamics that you cannot get in the C-Class, and so the 3 Series is just a more well-rounded car, and the popularity of it has shown. And then the next 2 cars that are not here because, well, they're sold out is the new 7 Series and then the new X7. Now, a lot of people online will tell you that the cars are absolutely hideous and, well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, but what is not in the eye of the beholder is the fact that both of those models sell amazingly well. I mean, they pretty much sell out at every single BMW dealership, whether it's a base model or a fully loaded version of either of those vehicles. And so I think that BMW has really figured out their niche within the luxury car world, where not only can they build like cool performance cars, but they're also able to attract people that are looking for luxury cars because they offer a really luxurious experience in both of those vehicles at a price point that is extremely competitive with other automakers. I mean, you look at a fully loaded 7 Series and it is significantly cheaper than a fully loaded Mercedes S-Class, and I would say that the 7 Series gives you a better driving experience than the S-Class, or as good as the S-Class. And so again, BMW is playing the value card, but then they're also just building really good cars. The man, the myth, the legend, Brandon, that you guys hear about in every single review. We have 2 questions for him. The first question is, why do you think BMW is currently so successful, especially compared to the other luxury automakers?
It's pretty simple. I think we offer a very premium product, and we're able to get it to the clients in a very timely manner.
And then the second question is, what do you feel like you guys are doing as a store that's different from other BMW stores to kind of help with your success? Because like word around the street is that you guys have gone from like selling not a lot of cars to like an insane amount of cars.
Yeah, we've certainly experienced a ton of growth. I'd say with that is we don't charge over sticker for our vehicles. And second, we're happy to take any offer and take any deal that gets the deal done.
Boom, there you go. Guys, Brandon, if you're going to buy a new BMW, if you want to be part of the over 2% US market share. So to pull everything together with today's video talking about how BMW has become so successful, and I do want to bring up some points that I was talking with Brendan about that, you know, we're obviously off camera, but we'll talk about it right now. So first off, super solid product lineup. Now, obviously their product lineup is not perfect. Like they've got the 2 Series and the 8 Series that seem to struggle to sell here in the US, but for the most part, the product lineup is very solid, super popular across the board because again, they offer a very premium product at a price that's very reasonable, especially when you compare it to the competition. Again, BMWs are similarly priced to Audis, but Audis don't feel special because it's kind of, I'm being harsh on Audi, but like at the same time, not like it's kind of like a souped up Volkswagen, right? That's kind of one of the ways you can look at Audis. Whereas like BMW is its own bespoke product, and the other manufacturer that makes bespoke product like BMW is Mercedes. But with Mercedes, they're really expensive. I mean, like most Mercedes seem to be like $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 more compared to the equivalent BMW model. So they offer a very good product at a very good price. And on top of that, their customers are able to get their product at a pretty reasonable time frame. Brendan told me that most BMWs are able to be delivered with to their customers within like, you know, 3 to 4, maybe 5 months after the people order them, for the most part. And then on top of that, something that Brendan and I talked about is BMW's incentive structure with their dealerships. So obviously there's only so much I can know because I'm not a BMW dealer, but what it sounds like is BMW basically incentivizes volume for BMW dealers. How it works is if BMW dealers sell more cars, then they get more cars, and so that incentivizes BMW dealers to sell even more cars, which means that BMW dealers are giving their customers better deals compared to a lot of other luxury manufacturers. Like you look at Audi dealerships, and I'm not like saying this to like bash on Audi dealers, but like a lot of them will charge over MSRP for their product. And then you look at Mercedes, same thing. Whereas BMW dealers, yes, there are some that will charge over MSRP, but there are a lot more BMW dealers that will do MSRP, or sometimes in some cases even under MSRP on certain product. And so it seems like, again, the whole structure with how BMW is basically divvying things out with their dealers is incentivizing dealers to give customers better deals, which leads to more volume, which leads to more profitability for dealers and more profitability for BMW, which is a win overall for everyone.